This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Wednesday, September 29th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From the Weather Channel, Hurricane Ian continues to bring catastrophic surge, winds, and flooding to southwest Florida. One of Florida's most intense hurricanes on record, designated Ian, has made landfall, inundating a good-sized portion of the state with torrential rain, flooding, storm surges, which is when the ocean rolls in and flash floods a large area before surging back out to sea, and incredibly strong winds. Residents saw this one coming and had plenty of warning to flee the impacted areas, both from reporters and officials, and from reports of the damage caused by the same storm system in nearby Cuba. But Ian is still expected to cause some deaths, a whole lot of damage that'll require billions of dollars to repair, and to possibly set some new records as well. From Reuters, EU weighs options for Russian draft dodgers. A recent mobilization announcement by the Russian government has led to waves of fighting-aged Russian men fleeing to neighboring countries, and that's caused some diplomatic headaches and some discussion amongst the folks governing the countries on the receiving end of this tide of humanity. Some reports indicate that hundreds of thousands of Russian men are fleeing what amounts to a draft happening in their country. And though some leaders suggest this is a good thing, and could even serve to brain drain their enemy, at least to some degree, and would show Russians that they have someplace to go if they object to the way their government is behaving, and fear reprisal for saying so, others have said that all Russians are responsible for what their government is doing, and should thus be sent back, or that the EU, especially those nations in the eastern portion of the bloc, are already strained enough because of all the Ukrainian refugees they've taken in. The Russian government, for its part, has said it hasn't yet decided whether to seal the borders across which these men are fleeing. And from Bloomberg, Bank of England pledges unlimited bond buying to avert imminent gilts crash. The Bank of England, which is trying to reduce inflation in the UK at the same time a new government seems to be trying to juice the economy, possibly further stoking inflation as a consequence, has said that it will buy as many long-dated bonds as it needs to in order to keep things stable. In essence, the new UK government's announced fiscal plans helped tank the UK economy and plunge the pound to its lowest point ever against the dollar, more or less overnight. And the Bank of England is trying to figure out ways to stabilize things without simply upping their key interest rate a dramatic amount. So they bought up more than £1 billion in government securities, all of which mature in 20 years or more. The BOE has said it's prepared to spend a whole lot more than that, though, and the idea is that this buyout of bonds will prevent a whole lot of forced buying of bonds by non-governmental financial institutions and other investors, which in some cases would bankrupt them, which would further tank the UK market and make digging out of the economic pit they're in currently a lot more difficult. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com, and you can support this and other related projects like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.